see something for you and your family. Make a puppet from things you've got. Scissors and glue, now write the plot. Watch, make, share.
Today on People Behind the Puppets, I'm here with Tobiy Olié. Toby started out as a puppeteer, but is now a director and designer. His production of Neil Gaiman's Wolves in the Walls opened at Little Angel last year. Let's meet him. Hello, Toby. I'm Angel. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, Toby, how did you first get into designing and making puppets?
I have been making puppets since I was about 6 or 7, probably.
Oh, wow.
I distinctly remember I was in my dinosaur phase because Jurassic Park was at the cinema. Arguably at 36, I'm still in my dinosaur phase. And I found a book in my school library. Now, this isn't the exact copy. I didn't steal it from my school library, but I found it in recent years. Called the individual one was called the Know-How Book of Puppets. And so this is like a compendium of lots of different books. And it was this puppet that I saw. Sort of dinosaur egg box puppet that I saw as a child and really, really wanted to make. So I, dashed back home, forced my parents to sacrifice an article of clothing that I could cut the sleeve off, found an egg box, and made that puppet. And then that just led to me, making puppets, putting on shows in my front room. Thankfully, I had a very understanding, positive family who encouraged that habit. And then, put it into my schoolwork as well and had a range of teachers who were really brilliant and supportive in art and drama and let me integrate puppetry into all of that work.
So what happened next? After school, what was the first production you worked on?
So I studied puppetry at Central School of Speech and Drama. So when I finished school, I was looking at kind of theatre design courses that had puppetry modules or places like that. And Central School of Speech and Drama back then was doing a puppetry BA. And so I did that course, which was primarily performance-based, little bits of making, but with a lot of performance skills, working with puppets. And during my final term, I was writing my big final essay about what I'd like to do when I graduated. And I got a phone call from somebody at the National Theatre's New Work Department, and they were developing the show called Warhorse, based on a book that I hadn't heard of or read back then. So I had to go to a bookshop and buy it, and come and audition for a kind of development workshop with this prototype horse puppet. It was a 4-week workshop, road testing this puppet that built by Handspring Puppet Company. And I don't think any of us knew back then that this life-size horse puppet was going to cause such kind of a crazy theatrical stir across the world.
It's very famous now, isn't it?
It is, it is. And I think all of us, we knew we were working very hard at trying to make this horse lifelike and to make an audience relate to it. But I don't think any of us quite fathomed that a puppet playing a kind of central character that doesn't leave the stage throughout the whole show would be so spellbinding to an audience. And I think watching a kind of naturalistic animal's behaviour amongst actors would allow an audience to impart so much of their own emotions on it. We'd look out into the audience and people would just be crying, be red faced, crying in the front rows, and think, okay, we're doing our job well, or they're having a really miserable time and they're regretting spending their money.
No, I think it was working. So you then moved into puppet making. What is it that you enjoy about making puppets?
I think making puppets is sort of a joy for me because it feels like the meeting point between acting and kind of fine art. So even when I was at school doing drama and kind of art, I always liked puppets because they sort of combine the two different elements. And so, when I was performing in Warhorse for, 3 years on and off, alongside that, I started to make puppets for other shows. So I did an 18-foot-long Cheshire Cat for Alice in Wonderland at the Royal Ballet.
That's huge!
I did Sammy the Dog for Goodnight Mr. Tom, a stage adaptation of the novel that toured. And I got to make puppets for a stage version of the Disney animated movie The Little Mermaid.
I love that one.
Yeah, I used to watch that every weekend as a child, so getting to make those puppets was a real dream.
Wow.
I think it's I always find it exciting finding the balance between what a puppet looks like and how it moves, and thinking about how an audience is going to relate to that and invest in that puppet with their own thoughts, emotions, experiences.
And when you are making, what are 3 things you really need to consider?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Angel, because I brought my sketchbook. So this is, I still find it hard to draw in a sketchbook because I do most of my thinking on scrappy bits of paper. And I feel like I have it drilled into me that a sketchbook has to be really meticulous. So I'm trying to be a bit a bit more proactive at drawing in sketchbooks. So when I make a puppet, I suppose the first thing, before I even start to draw in a sketchbook, is to think about how many hands you've got available to operate a puppet. Yeah, exactly, yeah, always a good thing to be wary of. So I very often, if I know that I'm being asked to make a sort of four-legged dog or animal, but I've only got one puppeteer with two hands, then obviously in my mind I think, well, then there's a hand on the body to sort of take a lot of the weight and a hand on the head to look at eye line, and therefore the legs can't really directly be animated. So that would automatically make me think its legs need to be sort of passive or fabric or sort of be able to be animated by flicking the body. So I suppose I often think about my designs in terms of people power and how many people are available. I then like to draw a kind of front and a side profile. So this is Jiminy Cricket from when I did Pinocchio at the National Theatre. And so we were sort of knew we wanted to make her a little bit more insect-like than she was in the animated film. And so for the sculptor I was working with, having a sort of front and a side profile is really, really helpful in terms of looking at shape and contours and things like that, let alone kind of joints and eventually scale. You can obviously blow up that drawing to be the height of the actual puppet as well for the creative team.
Good idea.
And then I think my final thing I think about making puppets is movement, really, to really, really prioritise movement. I remember being taught by Peter O'Rourke, who I'm sure you've probably spoken to.
Oh, yes, I've met him.
I remember him coming to teach me in my second year of drama school. I remember him saying you should never sacrifice a puppet's movement for its aesthetic. And that's always stayed with me, because actually the way a puppet moves is its primary form of communication. How it breathes, how it can shift through the space, how it can emotionally react to things. And actually if the way it's built or the way it looks stops it from doing that, then you're going to have a sort of sculpture. You're not going to have a kind of acting, living being. And so that's always been in my mind, to kind of show mechanics or joints and try not to kind of cover things up.
So Toby, you founded your own company, is that right?
It is, yeah. In 2014, I co-founded Gimbal, which is a theatre company that puts puppetry at the centre of its stories and its shows. Myself and Finn Caldwell, who run the company together, we met on Warhorse, both as puppeteers. I started off puppeteering Joey, and he puppeteered Topthorn. And then when the show transferred to the West End, I joined his team, and we realised, we were sort of, united in horse harmony. And we discovered that even though we come at things from different backgrounds, he trained as an actor and I trained as a puppeteer, we very much were after the same things and approached animating and performing characters in the same way. So it felt like a really good fit to make a show together, which was a production called the Elephantom, based on a really, really beautiful picture book by a writer-illustrator called Ross Collins. And from making that show, it had a really lovely response. It transferred to the West End. And so we decided to kind of formally set up a kind of creative working partnership as Guy and Gimbal to make our own shows that, sort of had puppets as central characters.
Yeah, puppets make really good central characters, don't they?
Very definitely. And I think we really like to have puppets that have lots of hands animating them, so that you can have a sort of as much movement and expression in a puppet as possible. So we did a show based on an urban myth called the Hartlepool Monkey that starred a chimpanzee, and we made a sort of 3-person chimpanzee puppet, and its hands and its feet were gloves. So the whole chimp could be really tactile and grip onto things with its feet or pass things up through its body. And I think we really like the fact that a puppet invites an audience into a story, because actually a puppet needs an audience to constantly be imbuing it with life and believing in it, and creating its story and its narrative. And so it feels like when a puppet's in a show, it really captures an audience's imagination.
And are you working on anything right now?
Yes, I am. I'm working on 3 quite big projects at the same time. So just before lockdown started, I was in the middle of a puppet build for 101 Dalmatians that was going to be at Regent's Park last year and then was postponed. So until that finds a new home, I currently have 101 Dalmatians living underneath my bench in my studio.
No.
Yeah, that's a lot of dog food, a lot of puppet dog food.
Yeah.
And then I'm about to start work on a new production of Animal Farm, which is going to tour the UK in early 2022. And that features about 34 life-size animals, pigs,
Gosh, so many.
Horses, cows, chickens, lots of things. And on top of that, I'm going to be designing puppets for a stage adaptation of Spirited Away, the Japanese animation by Studio Ghibli, which features all manner of amazing creatures and dragons and mythical things and things you don't know what they are until someone tells you because they look so funky. And so, that's going to be really good fun. Lots of kind of different experiments that we're doing practically beforehand, trying to work out how many hands things need, as I mentioned when I make a puppet, trying to figure out in these really big images how many people we need, what they're doing, how the puppet's going to be made, and sort of trialing those things in 3D.
Wow. So have you had time to create a puppet for our viewers to make at home?
I have indeed. And so this puppet is inspired by the puppets I used to make as a child, that I would often use cereal boxes, plastic bottles, drinking straws and things to make. Quite often I would steal the packaging before the food was even finished, which you can imagine my parents were thrilled about.
I would have eaten the food.
Yeah, I missed a trick there. So this is my milk bottle wizard puppet. And so he's a rod puppet. His body is mainly kind of fabric, but he's got rods to move his hands and a rod inside his body to move his head. And his head itself is an upside down 1 pint milk bottle.
Oh, of course it is.
So the kind of nose is the handle of the milk bottle, and the opening is where his mouth is in there. And then his body is the sort of domed top half of a 2-litre plastic fizzy drinks bottle.
So it can be made using things you found at home.
Exactly, yeah. And then I found an old piece of clothing from a charity shop that I thought looked interesting and wizardy, and used that for his hat and his clothes. Wow.
If you want to make a wizard just like Toby's, you can download the instructions from our website. Oh, hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
I like your robe.
Oh, thank you so much. Toby, thanks so much for joining me today. It's been really fun.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. See you next time.